welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I can't tell you how excited I am to be on right now. It's been a couple of weeks of excitement, getting prepared, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but this has got to be close to the top.
Thank you, and ReadersMagnet, and thank you, John, for putting this forth and taking the chance on us authors in presenting this out to the world.
I've enjoyed this immensely, Joanne.
Ellie, so have I. Thank you for who you are, and thank you, ReadersMagnet. You all are beautiful, and you've worked so very hard, and we are blessed.
We are.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process, because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers. We thank ReadersMagnet and everybody that's involved. I love ReadersMagnet. They say, we share your stories with the world.
Hello, everyone. I would say good evening, but somewhere it's probably morning or night. So good day and good night. So anyways, my name is Bobbie Mclaren, and I have been privileged to be a part of the Festival of Storytellers, this being the third one, and this being the third time that I've been able to share my story. In the introduction, the one lady says that ReadersMagnet says they share our stories with the world. And who doesn't want, not that we necessarily want fame, but who doesn't want to tell their story to where people would go, wow, that's great. So anyways, as I said, my name is Bobbie Mclaren, middle initial J, and I have written a couple books, but we're going to talk about one in particular tonight, and it was written back in actually 2007. I wrote it I was writing it actually prior to my mother's passing, and I was hoping to get it published prior to her leaving us, but it didn't quite happen. But she did hear every story because they are true stories. I'm going to show you a picture of the book. It's The Sounds at River's Edge, and I love the cover that ReadersMagnet, I've just rebranded it again with ReadersMagnet, and it shows a little girl holding on to her father's hand. And that's what this book is about. And when I would sit and read, every individual chapter actually is a story, and I would sit and I would read these stories to my mom before she passed, and we'd sit there and giggle and laugh, and I'd say, "No, Mom, is that accurate?" And she would critique me on certain things, and she goes, "Well, now that's not exactly right," and then she would tell me her side, and sometimes what she remembered was a whole lot funnier than what I remembered. And I thought what I wrote was, hysterical at times, but and we were able to sit and laugh, and great memories. But I'd always hoped that I had it published prior to her passing. But you know what? Regardless of whether I did or I didn't, we shared times together in those stories that were just incredible. The Sounds at River's Edge, they're true stories. The byline underneath says true stories of growing up. That right there, true stories of growing up on the Intracoastal Waterway. And that Intracoastal Waterway, now that's a broad spectrum because it actually runs past Miami all the way up into the New England states. You can go from New York all the way down to Miami via the Intracoastal Waterway. So, saying true stories on the Intracoastal Waterway, unless I've clarified even more so, you wouldn't have actually a real clue, because there's actually, even on the western side, now this took place on the east coast of South Florida, and I grew up in northern Palm Beach County. But there is actually intracoastal waterways in California. There's intracoastal waterways on the western side of Florida. And well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, and but I grew up on in South Florida, in the northern part of Palm Beach County, and it was very. You think about South Florida now, and you think of, like, from Orlando down. Unless you're in Central Florida, it's a busy place. And not that I don't like people. I mean, I like people for the most part. Sometimes humans could be a little bit irritating, but aren't we all? But when I grew up down there, our closest neighbors were uh, probably, well, and our closest neighbors were all family. I mean, it was like, Pop lived next door, and next door was like 600 feet from where our house was. My Uncle Jim, who's one of my dad's brothers, he lived on the other side next door, and it was also about maybe 800 to 1,000 feet away. Um, but we all grew up there on the Intracoastal Waterway, and when I was little, it was very, very rural. You could hear the bobcats at night. You could hear all kinds of really awesome, awesome things. Um, in the little side canals, had to think for a moment. In the little side canals, it was kind of brackish water. And living in South Florida, gators were not uncommon, as they're still not uncommon. But sometimes during certain times of the year, we'd sit out back. We had this huge Australian pine tree in our backyard. I don't understand the Australian pine tree, but it was very tall, very straight, and it was very big at the base. And me and my dad would go out at night sometimes, and we'd lean against that pine tree when I was little, and he'd say, "Now listen." We'd count stars, and we'd listen to the wildlife, and you could hear so many different things. You could hear the little bobcats, meow. You could hear that. You could hear some of the night birds, which I didn't even think birds sang. And I thought every bird went to sleep at night, not realizing that there actually are night birds. And during certain times of the year, you could actually hear the rustling of the gators when they do that weird thing, where the males, they do something to vibrate their back, and the water splashes like that. And he'd say, "Now listen, listen." So the reason, once again, it's the sounds at River's Edge is because when we grow up, there's so many sounds we hear. One of the worst things that I always hated was the word no. Um, that's a sound that, well, even unless you're putting your hand in a fire, you don't want to hear no as a kid. You want to hear, "Yeah, okay, go ahead, do that." You hear no a lot. But the book, being every chapter being an individual story, just to kind of get into the gist of it, the very first story is called A Leap of Faith. And in A Leap of Faith, I'm going to give you a summarized version of it. The leap of faith is where every Saturday morning, and we're talking, we had just moved into this new house that my dad had built for my mom. And when I say built, I'm literally saying my dad was a contractor. So he built this house down on the waterway for my mom so she could watch the boats go by. Now, back then it was not very busy. Now it's like a super highway in the intercoastal, but just to watch the boats and the barges and stuff. So I was about 4.5 years old, and every Saturday I would get up early because I knew there were cartoons. I loved cartoons. They didn't have cartoons through the week. All you had to was Captain Kangaroo or Skipper Chuck, different ones like that. Skipper Chuck was basically a South Florida guy, and he was actually from the Hollywood, Miami, Fort Lauderdale area where they broadcasted. Anyways, so I got up really early on Saturday mornings to watch my cartoons. And back then it was basically Looney Tunes. I mean, sure, you had Donald and Daffy and stuff like that, which are, the Disneys, but it was Looney Tunes. You had Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. You had all those, what, Tom and Jerry, these are the Looney Tunes. And so I would get up, and Bugs was always one of my favorites because he was smart, and yet he was kind of cocky, that kind of thing. Well, he was like the best little kid could ever be because he got away with everything. And Elmer was always, I'm going to get that wascally wabbit, but he never was able to get him. But anyways, and he was chasing Bugs. This Saturday, I was up there and I had my little quilt, which went with me everywhere. I felt like Linus off of Snoopy, and sitting out there watching, and Bugs was running from Elmer, and it is a man's hand. Does this book talk? Yes, it does, and it's incredible. Yes, Leonard, thank you very much. It is a man's hand on the cover of him holding a little child's hand, and it's all about the father's love and experiences with me and my sister. But I'm watching Bugs, and he's running from Elmer, and he gets to this cliff, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, where do you go? You got this man with a gun behind you, and he's gonna shoot you. And Bugs reaches behind him, pulls out an umbrella, pop the umbrella, and that was even before we had the umbrellas. It popped open. Anyways, pop the umbrella, pops open, and he steps off the cliff and he floats down. How cool is that? Oh my God. All I knew was that my mom had just gotten a brand new umbrella. It was like a chocolate brown color. It had gold on the handles. And it was one of those that was long like a cane, the real long ones. And it had the little art, the little like shepherd's crook on the top. And I thought, I have got to do that. That is like the best thing in the world. So that's what I did. I went outside. First, I checked to make sure nobody else was awake in the house. I'm telling you, I got up really early. And it was the one day that everybody got to sleep in because, Sundays you got to get up early for church. So anyways, I went outside, and we had the live oak trees in Florida. Hate the leaves, by the way, little tiny ones. But I crawled up on top of our patio furniture. We had a concrete picnic table, and it was right up against this live oak tree that, fortunately for me, it had a low-lying limb. And I got up on that tree and got my umbrella, and I sat across the limb like you would straddle a horse. And I just little by little, I edged my way over toward the roof of our house because the limb went right over the roof of the house. So as I got over there, and then I crawled off the limb onto the roof, and once again I looked down to make sure that my dad hadn't gotten up, because if he'd have gotten up, I'd have seen him inside the window. Just, you look under the porch, and his chair's right there. Didn't see anybody. So I got over toward the edge of the roof and got my feet settled, opened my mom's brand new umbrella, and stood there for a minute. And I thought, man, this is gonna be so good. I am going to step off, and I am going to float down, and I may do it again. I mean, it's going to be such fun. I may just have to do it several times. So off I stepped. It was not the fun I thought. Oh my gosh. All I know is that when I realized what had happened, somehow that umbrella that I was holding up here had gotten underneath me, and I had fallen on top of it inside the croton hedge that lined our walkway going to the patio. And I laid there for a minute, and all of a sudden I saw feet and legs. And next thing I know, I was being picked up out of the hedge by my dad. And he looked at me. I mean, he held me like this, and he was looking at me, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I don't know." Well, he checked me out pretty good, and then he started laughing. He said, "What in the world?" Well, and I said, and I started to cry because I thought, look what I did to Mom's umbrella. My mother, you have no idea. Her things were very, very special to her, and she didn't like us messing with it. So I took my life in my hands just getting the umbrella. And my dad looked at me and he said, "Don't worry about it. I'll get her another one. We won't have to say anything." So I don't know where he hid that broken umbrella, but I do know this. Somewhere that umbrella was hidden. Daddy got her another one just like it. I guess he got it for her in the first place. And meanwhile, I did have scratches and bruises from where I had fallen into the hedge. Thank God the hedge was, Daddy said the hedge actually broke my fall. And good, because thank God I didn't hit the sidewalk that we had to, go into the patio, because it was blocks, those wonderful little patio blocks or stepping blocks. That would have really hurt. Could have broke something then. But that was a different story. My sister broke my arm like 2 months later. What was the most difficult part of my artistic process? Ooh, Darnell, let's see, Daryl. I think keeping my thoughts straight, not getting off track. I still have the habit of, I do an outline, and I write notes to myself about, if all of a sudden I get an idea, and it's correlating those notes together to where you get an actual real story. Um, Sometimes it's just as easy as sitting down and just typing. But strangely enough, I like to write stuff out longhand. Um, I don't do it all the time, because I write in pen. I'm not a real big pencil person, unless I'm sketching. But I write everything in pen. I even do crosswords in pen. So the most difficult is believing in myself, believing that somebody somewhere might want to hear my stories besides my family, which they grew up with it. But that would be probably the biggest thing, is you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that what you have to say, whether it's true or whether it's fiction, that it's going to be entertaining, enlightening. It's going to be, um, even if it's just entertaining to you. I had a blast writing that book. I mean, thinking about all the different things that we'd been through. There's one place in there, in our backyard, we had a seawall, and the seawall, um, when the tide was out, the sand was exposed, but it wasn't just sand. In our backyard, just beyond the seawall, we had muck beds. That's MUCK, muck. And muck is a black, I don't even know how to explain it. All I know, we had muck fights, and we'd have that stuff in our hair, and it was just awful. But little fiddler crabs lived in the muck. And I used to catch little fiddler crabs to go fishing with. Well, my sister, I guess because I had terrorized her all those times with crabs, that she's still scared of crabs and lobsters. Anything with a claw, she's 72 now. Come on, get over the fear of the crabs. Even though we go to seafood restaurants, I can't sit next to her if I get lobster or crab that has legs and claws. She's still kind of scary. But anyways, that would be because, um, several times I would terrorize her with these crabs. Once I even put them in her bed. Um, yeah, so she went to bed at night and there were crabs, and that's also a story in the book. But in writing this book, and I would recommend to anybody, when you write a book, be as true to yourself as you can. Even if it's fiction. I mean, what I wrote is nonfiction. It's true. They're true stories. They're as true as my sister, and my mom remembered. These were written after my dad had passed. I was fortunate enough to have my dad for 40 years before he passed. I wished I could have kept him a lot longer, because I know when I was little, I used to think, nobody can know so much, and there were times that when my sister and I were just terrors. We'd fight. He could give us the look in the car via the mirror, and both of us would be like, "Oh, okay." And he didn't even have to say, "Do you want me to pull this car over?" And I'd be like, "No, we don't want that. Once was enough. Just pull it." Now he just has to give us the look. But when my dad would tell us stuff, there were times that we thought he just didn't get it, especially when I was a teenager. Your parents, they don't have a clue what you're going through. And then you get to be about 30, 40, 50 years old, and you're like, my God, they were the smartest people I knew. Why? Why don't we listen to our parents? Simple. Because we think we know better and more than they do. we're new generation. Heck, I was a kid in the 20th century, and I thought, man, I had it happen. And now these kids in the 21st century, woo, it's a different world than what I grew up in. And The Sounds of River's Edge is all about a simpler time. It's all about times when we didn't have microwaves, didn't even know what a microwave was. Um, what were my challenges I encountered while writing my books? Um, Perseverance. I get distracted easily. Always have. Um, that's one of the reasons why even right now I'm writing several other books. And somebody asked me yesterday, how can I write 2 and 3 books at one time? Well, if I get a mental block on one, I go to the other. And it works out better that way because I get, like I said, I get distracted. And I'm the same way with my paintings. If I think it's not good, I walk away from it. And any artist um, will tell you, and it's the same way with your writing. Sometimes you just have to step away from it and then go back later and look at it. With a painting, I've walked back into my art room after I have left a painting that I thought, oh my God, it's just horrible. Walk back in and looking at it for the first time with new eyes, it's like, wow, that's a whole lot better than I thought. And it's the same way with writing. I would write and I think, I don't know. And I just like, okay, just leave it alone. And I would go back later and I would read that same story that I had struggled with that I thought it's just not going to work. Sit down and read it. And while I'm reading it, I'm thinking, wow, that it really does sound a whole lot better than I realized. And now I've got fresh ideas to put into it that it'll even enhance the story better. Now with nonfiction, you just have to make sure that the enhancements are actual true. But with fiction, man, you can make it as dramatic or as non-dramatic. You can make it as comical, um, depending on what genre that you're writing in. So it's just do it. I know. What was it? Is it Nike that used to say "just do it"? Was one of their ads. Just do it. If you don't write what's in you and you feel like you've got something to say, nobody's going to hear it. But that's one of the greatest things about the written word, whether it be in a book, a magazine, an essay. When you go to college and you have to write a thesis, and you have to do all that stuff. The things that you write down, let it be true to you. If it's something you're interested in, you know what? There's probably a million other people in the world that are interested in the same thing. So what you want to do is capture that audience. And none of us there's going to be people that would look at my book and go, well, I could care less about that. Then there's others that would look and say, well, you know what? That sounds like fun. I think I'll just read it for the entertainment, the sheer entertainment of it. And then, of course, you got people that know me. They're like, I'd like to read that, which sometimes, true story, sometimes you wish they didn't read it when it's about you because they all take my sister's side. And I don't understand that. They think I was like a little mischievous imp. She was 4 years older than me. Well, she still is 4 years older than me. And she did horrendous things to me. So I was just trying to get back at her. But it's like, oh, you were so mean to your sister. Okay. It's all in who your favorite is. So I determined that they're all going to be my favorites, and I'll just feel sorry for my sister. And okay, then I'll let her have a few people say that I was mean to her, which actually, yeah, I was. I'm a bad kid, but it was a lot of fun. So, anyways, um, I don't. Let's see. I appreciate all you guys with your questions. I would like to tell you that you can get my book. Let's see. Pull it back here. Oh, there we go. Straighten it up. You can get my book at Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com. You can get it at my website, which is BobbieJMcLaren.com. You can get it at Reader's Magnet. See, Readers, where is it at? Right there, other side, Reader's Magnet. I'm backwards on my film here. Reader's Magnet, you can get it there. Oh, look, that's me. Don't worry about the picture. It doesn't get any worse. So anyways, if you're interested, I hope you go and get it. If you're not interested, I just enjoy the fact that you were here and looking. And so this is just cool. I appreciate Reader's Magnet for having this. Um, there are so many good authors. I suggest to each of you that are listening to this now, if you're not listening to it live, by all means, go to YouTube with Reader's Magnet. And there are so many good authors. I have met so many people that I feel like we're friends already. I've bought their books. I buy more books from the Festival of Storytellers than any. So, anyways, as we're wrapping this up, because I know I'm getting down to my like 2 or 3 minutes here. Anyways, I just want to encourage you each. There is a genre of book with the Reader's Magnet on the Festival of Storytellers that you will be interested in. This afternoon, we were in one of the round tables, and that's another thing. Follow as many roundtables as you can. It's just fascinating. They have so many different topics. The one today was, how do you find a good book? The one we did last night was, have you ever written self-published books? Well, you're welcome. And so go to as many roundtables as you can. If there's spots available, by all means, get in there and listen. And if you can't get to them, you can go on this site, the Festival of Storytellers. .com, and you can actually bring up the pre-recorded and you can watch them again. So here's the thing. We want to make sure that you can find the people that you want, the stories that you want. And it's amazing. Like one of the ladies that was a moderator today, she's a doctor and a psychologist for like 50 years, and the amount of information that she's gotten over the years with dealing with so many different types of humanity, because we all have issues. I mean, there's not a person alive that doesn't have an issue. And psychologists they have a lot of issues because they probably have a lot of patients. And when I say patients, I don't mean the waiting kind. I'm talking about like me and you going to a doctor patient. But and then there was a man that he was writing, he wrote stories about how that history has a way of repeating itself regardless of what we do. And it's true. You can go from the beginning of time and you'll see that history repeats itself. Reader's Magnet and the Festival of Storytellers is a venue that will do well for you if you'll just go on and listen. There's a young man coming on later today, today being Wednesday, the 26th of October. And his name is Clarence Cosby. And he wrote a book, Soul Exchange, which I interviewed him last time on this. And I got his book and read it. It was fascinating. Now he's written 2 more books. And he's supposed to be on later this evening doing his Author of the Hour. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. So there's so many good authors. There's cookbook authors. There's children's stories. There's every kind of book you want. By all means, take this opportunity to introduce yourself to new authors, new books, new genres. You may find some people that have written some sci-fi. Lucy West wrote a story. What was it? The Spirit Dancer. Great book. I keep waiting for her to do a follow-up on it to see what happened with the characters when that book did. Lucy West she was just fascinating. There's a lady, her first name is Ellie. I can never pronounce her last name. Forgive me, Ellie, for that. But she's written a caregiving book and she's also written a cookbook. Last season on the festival, she actually cooked something in front of us. Made me hungry. Yep. So anyways, I just want to share again. My story is The Sounds at River's Edge. I'll get the hang of this camera thing here in a little bit. And it's all about a little girl and her relationship with her dad. I got it that time. Anyways, a relationship with her dad and growing up on the waterway, because water is always a part of our lives. We've got to have it. So if anybody have any more questions, anybody want to type something in? I just want to thank you guys again for giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Reader's Magnet. Thank you, Festival of Storytellers. I want to thank each and every single one of you that has ever bought my book. I'll be on again. See, today is Wednesday. I'll be on again Thursday, the same time at 5:30 Central. No, yes, 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. However it equates to wherever you live in the world, do it. And if you can't get it, then by all means, like I said, Reader's Magnet with the Festival of Storytellers, they do have where you can go and you can watch the pre-recorded, like what this will be later. You can go on there, you can go to YouTube, you can find it on Facebook, and you can find all kinds of things. Again, you can find my book, The Sounds at River's Edge, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Reader's Magnet, on my website, Bobbie J. Mclaren. And, by all means, contact me, write me. I would say call me up, but I don't think that my phone's on there. Plus, yeah, I could be annoying. I annoy myself, but I amuse myself too. So anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I want to thank you again, Liz. I know you're there. Thank you for taking good care of me. And that is one of the things I have to say with Reader's Magnet. I don't know who you publish with or who that you're doing, but Reader's Magnet has always coupled me with caring people and people that are very good at what they do. They're good at their jobs. You want to find a publisher that you can trust, and you want to find one that's got your back. So I encourage you that if you're looking for a publisher that you want to self-publish, go to Reader's Magnet, call them up, email them, and maybe they'll take care of you. So I'm good to go. If there's nothing else, then I want to tell you all, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And I hope to see you again Thursday evening. No, Friday. It's Friday. I'm sorry. It's not Thursday. Friday at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. I'll be back with another author's booth. So until then, I want to say goodbye. I want to say thank you, and see you guys in the pages.